for his department-wide budget presentation. After the presentation, we will ask our colleagues to ask their questions. So, Sir, Secretary Muya, you now have the floor for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Thank you very much, Your Honor, Senator J.B. Ejercito, Senator Win Gatchalian, to the members of the Directorate, the staff, to my colleagues in the DILG. Good morning to all of you. To the honorable members of the Senate, distinguished, we at the Department of the Interior and Local Government reaffirm our commitment as the Senate's partner in advancing sound and responsive governance policies, strengthening public accountability, and safeguarding peace, order, and security across our nation. With this in mind, we humbly submit for your consideration the Department's proposed fiscal year 2026 budget amounting to 287,480,820,000 pesos. Bawat piso na kalaan nito ay patunay ng ating malasakit at determinasyon para sa mas ligtas na mga komunidad, matiwasay na mga ahensya at pamahalaan lokal, at isang matino, mahusay at maasahan na kagawaran. With your indulgence, may be allowed to present an audio-visual presentation highlighting the department and attached agencies. Major accomplishments in financial performance for 2024 and the first half of 2025, total proposed budget and its breakdown per expense class, and the budget distribution for key programs, projects, and activities. With the permission of the Chair, may I now request the Secretariat to play the ABP.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government and our attached agencies proudly share our milestones and proposed 2026 budget, which we will judiciously utilize to realize a stronger, safer, and inclusive Bagong Pilipinas. For 2026, we welcome the addition of the Early Childhood Care and Development Council into the DILG family. Being a highly trusted department and partner, we value the budget granted to us by implementing programs and projects anchored on the DILG outcome framework, which helped us fulfill our mandate of advancing good local governance, peace and order, and public safety. We stood at the forefront of pushing excellence in local governance throughout the country. The drive for good local governance continued to gain ground as we saw the increase of LGUs conferred with the seal of good local governance, alongside the rise in development projects for our people as incentives for their performance. Our drive towards improving frontline services is sustained with more LGUs complying with the standards on the issuance of permits, licenses, and clearances, thus improving LGU efficiency and better service delivery to the people. We also called on newly elected officials to be champions of good local governance as we commence equipping them with the fundamentals and preparing them for the challenges that lie ahead. We were also persistent in our efforts to ensure the completion of LGU projects benefiting millions of households throughout the nation. For our interior duties, safeguarding the country from threats to peace and development remains our top most priority. Through the tireless efforts of the Philippine National Police and our local governments, we have achieved a sustained decline in crime incidents and intensified our fight against cybercrimes. The holistic drive against illegal drugs saw a huge success not only on the demand side but also on the supply chain, with the government, law enforcers, and civil society working in unison to realize our vision of a drug-free nation. The Bureau of Jail Management and Penology's efforts has led to the consistent decline in jail congestion numbers, while at the same time promoting the welfare of persons deprived of liberty under its care. To prevent destructive fires, the Bureau of Fire Protection diligently conducts inspections and enforces the fire code while promptly responding to fires and emergency calls. We also advance development as the foundation of lasting peace in communities once affected by conflict. With disasters posing increasing threats to communities, we continue to intensify our efforts in disaster risk reduction and response. by capacitating local officials on listo disaster protocols, building evacuation centers, and ensuring the readiness of our police and fire bureaus to respond during emergency. Along with this, our emergency 911 systems, which shall be further upgraded and modernized, continue to provide quick and efficient response to urgent situations and public safety concerns nationwide. We also sustain our efforts to create opportunities for every Filipino through our various social interventions to enable inclusive communities, such as mobilizing youth organizations and sangguniang kabataan, uplifting the causes and interests of Muslim Filipinos, advancing efforts towards gender-responsive governance, and delivering health, nutrition, early childhood care, and other social services to the community. The gains and accomplishments of the department would not have been possible without the budget entrusted to us. We are pleased to report that the budget allotted for us in 2024 was judiciously spent with an obligation rate and disbursement rate of 97%, while for the first semester of this year, we were able to obligate around 58% of our allotment with a disbursement rate of almost 97%. As we head into another year, we are pleased to share the highlights of our proposed budget, which amounts to a total of 287 billion pesos, an increase of 1.8% from our current appropriation. Shown is the breakdown of our 2026 proposed budget per agency. Almost all of the agencies received budget increases except for the NYC, ECCDC, and BJMP. As shown and as virtually similar in the past years, 82% of our budget, or 236 billion pesos, goes to personnel services, while 14% is for maintenance and other operating expenses, and about 4% for capital outlay. Shown next is the 2026 budget of each agency per expense class. We assure this committee that these will be used to fully support the priorities and strategic thrusts of the government. These priorities and strategic thrusts are reflected in the highlights of the 2026 budget proposal per agency, starting with the Office of the Secretary. With its allocation, OSEC will sustain good governance and enhance capacities of LGUs in service delivery and performance by assisting and monitoring the completion and implementation of LGU infrastructure projects, including roads and bridges, enhancing local governance by strengthening LGU capacities, especially on competitiveness and ease of doing business, as well as scaling up their performance standards, and promoting citizens' participation to heighten local accountability. We will also improve significantly the LGUs and our relevant agencies' capabilities to respond to emergencies, as well as intensify efforts for peace and order and public safety, including the campaign against illegal drugs and insurgency. Similarly, we will continue to monitor LGU compliance with environmental laws, as well as strengthen the operational capability and resilience of the department and LGUs to monitor and respond to the growing unpredictability and severity of disasters, together with the local government academy. We will also improve the DILG's capabilities through ICT projects, as well as fully operationalize our presence in the Negros Island region. The local government academy's budget will be used to complement the efforts of OSEC in advancing the capabilities of local governments through the continued training for newly elected officials and functionaries and DILG personnel, modernization of the LGA training center, as well as the implementation of ICT projects. The National Police Commission remains steadfast in its oversight of the police force as it strives to implement programs and projects for police administration and crime prevention. Operational costs for additional regional testing centers, construction of a center for training in Legazpi, ISO certification, NIR operationalization, and ICT programs. Our Philippine National Police remains alert and ready to ensure the security of every community by focusing its resources on hiring 2,000 patrolmen and women, sustaining its capability enhancement program, construction of new police stations and facilities, actively responding to disasters, upholding the welfare of its personnel, actively addressing the threat of illegal drugs and insurgency, and implementation of ICT projects. The Bureau of Fire Protection will continue on its modernization efforts to further strengthen its capability in addressing fires and disasters through the hiring of 2,000 fire officers, upholding the welfare of its personnel, actively responding to disasters and emergencies, implementation of ICT projects, construction of 99 fire stations and maintenance of new stations and trucks, and continuous refleeting of fire trucks and vehicles to respond swiftly to fires and emergencies. To address jail congestion and support the rehabilitation of persons deprived of liberty, the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology will continue to implement key initiatives such as hiring 2,000 Jail Officer 1, providing subsistence, medicine, and hygienic kits and medical support for PDLs, operating newly procured prisoner vans, ensuring jail facilities are drug-free, advancing the cause of justice through its commitments in the JSCC, procurement of firearms and radios, and construction of fences and a new jail facility. Capacitating future public safety and security officers remains the top focus of the Philippine Public Safety College. This includes the continued implementation of training programs to address cybercrimes, construction of academic infrastructure, procurement of supplies and materials, operationalization of the National Virtual Training Center, and other ICT initiatives. The National Youth Commission aims to usher in a new generation of innovative and future-ready leaders among the Filipino youth. This will be achieved through the mobilization of various youth organizations, training for SK officials, improvement efforts on the Philippine Youth Development Plan, and the effective implementation of youth programs. The National Commission on Muslim Filipinos will continue to advance social, cultural, economic, and social protection programs for Muslim Filipinos by way of sustaining its support for Hajj pilgrims, assisting Muslim communities, hosting the 5th International Islamic Finance Conference in the Philippines, and bolstering its operational capabilities. To further advance and protect the interests of women, the Philippine Commission on Women will focus on supporting efforts to thwart violence against women and their children and fulfilling the Philippines' international commitments on gender and equality. Meanwhile, the Early Childhood Care and Development Council will strive to give every Filipino child a good kickstart in development through the establishment of national child development centers and human resource development interventions for child development teachers and workers. Lastly, as part of our commitments for the chairship of the Philippines for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in 2026, the DILG as a member of the ASEAN National Organizing Council, most notably as the chair of the Security and Emergency Committee and host agency of various ASEAN sectoral meetings, has been allocated 2.8 billion pesos for its 6 agencies to ensure the secure and successful hosting of year-long activities. We shall remain firm and resolute in advancing the interests of the Filipino people and in fulfilling the promise and realizing the ideals of a bagong Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you. So that's the presentation of all the agencies under the DILG. Probably, I will give, of course, priority to our chair of the finance. You have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'll start off with the newest addition to the DILG family, the ECCD Council. Andito ba sila? Oo. Si Dr. Insyong. Newest addition, but si Dr. Insyong di ho yan new. No? She's been there for decades na yata, no? Dr. Insyong. So, institution na ho si Dr. Insyong sa ECCD. And this new law, the ECCD law, is very close to my heart because nung chairman po ako ng Basic Education Committee, we analyze the situation of our early childhood care and development. And naging ano na tayo naging stagnant na tayo, Mr. Secretary, in terms of early childhood care and development. And when we were crafting this law, we had you in mind, no? Because you were once a local chief executive, pareho sa amin. We were both, three of us were former local chief executive. So alam ko na intindihan nyo ang early childhood care and development, lalo na sa province of Cavite dahil isang maunlad at isang malawak na probinsya. And we all know that ang early childhood care and development is a devolved function. Diba? Yung mga mayors nagpapatayo ng daycare centers, yung mga mayors ang kumukuha ng mga daycare teachers. So it's really in the hands of the mayors and the local chief executive. Kaya nung ina-analyze namin bakit hindi nag-stagnate yung yung goal natin for universal coverage ng early ECCD, na-realize namin dahil hindi na mobilize yung mga local chief executive. Kaya tinransfer namin yung ECCD under DILG because DILG has the supervision over the local government units. At the same time, typically mga head ng DILG, nakita ko mga former local chief executive. No? Kadalasan. So with that, we're hoping that under the DILG, the local government units can be mobilized at ma-appreciate ng mga local chief executives natin yung kahalagahan ng early childhood care and development. Dahil yung early childhood care is from 0 to 5 years old. No? So, and hindi lang education, kundi nutrition nila, safety nila, other aspects of development, yun ang pinakamahalaga. But alam naman natin, hindi yan kaya ng top to bottom approach. It has to be bottom to top dahil yung mga local governments yan no? Like sa San Juan, in Valenzuela, it's LGU talaga ang nagpapatakbo ng mga daycare natin. So with that in mind, Secretary, I just want to know from you and from your experience, now that it has been transferred to DILG, what are your plans and direction for the ECCD, and how can the Senate be of help, in terms of truly achieving universal coverage when it comes to ECCD?
Thank you, Your Honor. The most critical part of a young person's development is in the first 1,000 days. And in the Philippines, nutrition seems to be the most deficient part. More than exposure to other learning materials, it is nutrition that is where we are most lacking. It is not the lack of calories that is being served, but the quality of the food that is being served to the children. So if we can have a better intervention with the feeding of the children, the mandatory feeding of the children, it will go a long way in increasing the mean IQ of the mean IQ development of our children here in the Philippines. Currently, the functional IQ for a working person in a factory in province like Cavite is about 90. You're functionally literate enough to operate. But the national average for what the information we have, the national average is at around 86, I think. So, and that is a long part not attributed to the quality of education, but rather the poor nutritional upbringing of the children at a very young age.
The importante ho talaga yan dahil once yung bata lumampas na ng 6-7 years old, tapos malnourished siya, stunted o bansot siya, and then wasted or payat siya, napakahirap na i-reverse. No?
Yes, sir.
Napakahirap i-reverse. And that's why we need to mobilize the local government units. I'm sure you know, Secretary, na malaking bagay maitutulong ng mga mayors pag na-mobilize natin sila.
Totally understand, sir. There seems to be the Philippines has progressed in the last 20 years, or in the last 30 years. 30 years ago, when we entered politics, I think JB and I entered at the same time. The life expectancy of the Philippines then was 64. We're now at 70 for men and 71 for women. So we live longer, the healthcare is better, but the early childhood intervention is still not up to par. So I think if we can mandate a nutrition program for the early childhood of our constituents, then it will go a long way into developing our country.
Secretary, I'm sure in the private sector, diba yung mga magulang na may kaya, nagbabayad nga sila ng napakamahal para yung mga 3-year-olds nila, 4-year-olds sila pumasok na. In fact, ngayon nakikita ko as early as may mga 2-year-olds na nga na pinapaaral kung may kaya, no? So, but that's how education is now being given attention, na maaga pa lang nagkakapag-aral na nade-develop na yung kanilang pag-iisip at yung kanilang cognitive capabilities para pagdating ng grade 1, wala nang problema. So the same philosophy we want to apply to our public school system, no? And that's why sabi ko nga maganda na kayo galing sa lokal, naintindihan nyo, I'm sure nakikita nyo yan, no, on a daily basis. And that's why we transferred yung ECCD Council to the DILG so that we can mobilize the local governments. Another reform that we introduced in the law is standards. So meaning the ECCD will now promulgate standards that all local governments will follow. Dati kasi iba sa Valenzuela, iba sa San Juan, iba sa Cavite. At hindi nagkakaroon ng standard in terms of curriculum and in terms of approach, no? So one of the things that we introduce is to for ECCD to be the standards agency promulgating standards, and then we gave them access or DILG in this case sa LGSF para makatulong sa mga pagpapatayo ng tawag na natin ngayon CDCs, no? Formerly daycares. So ngayon ang mga 5th, 6th class municipalities na wala talagang mga daycares, matutulungan nating magkaroon na ng daycares. In our data, 3,810 barangays pa ang walang daycares, no? So may mga areas tayo talagang zero ang daycares nila. So ECCD now will have access to the LGSF in terms of helping the poor municipalities put up daycare centers. And then at the same time, I understand na ang Malacanang, I know from maybe si Dr. Insyong knows about this. Ang Malacanang nagbigay ng grant na 1 billion, no? 1 billion to 4th and 5th class municipalities to build CDCs. May I know kung anong status na nung pagpapatayo na yon?
Sir, you're correct with your data. As of our data, out of the 40,000 barangays, 28,090 of them have daycare centers. The President had allocated 1 billion pesos for the creation of new daycare centers, but it will not pass through the DLG. It'll go straight to the barangays the identified barangays where there are no daycare centers.
Okay. Hopefully we can already have at least one daycare, one per barangay.
That's our target, sir.
Para we can expand the coverage of our early childhood
Yes, sir.
care and development. All right. So I'm very optimistic that the transfer will yield to increase in coverage, and hopefully in the next 3 years we can increase the number of students going to our ECCD. Right now, ang out of the 4.5 million 3 years old and 4 years old, 30% lang ang pumapasok sa ating mga daycare. Yung 70% talagang hindi po pumapasok because walang daycare, walang access. No? So hopefully in the next 3 years we can improve that rate. No?
Yes, sir. What would also help is if we try to develop a program for local government units and national government units to have daycares in their respective buildings. That is one of the biggest hindrances is because when they have children of young age, iniiwan na lang sa bahay yan eh. Diba? Hindi nila nadadala. I am sure we have employees, in my capital then, we had employees who had difficulty with their children. And although Cavite has sufficient daycare centers, if we can establish daycare centers in government buildings and government offices, it will go a long way in helping all our employees also with their children.
Thank you, Secretary, for that. I'll go to another topic, and this is one of the items I saw in the budget. Itong 911 services. From 28 million, it became 1 billion, which we all welcome. No? I think it's really about time to have a unified number. Ngayon kasi iba-ibang LGU, iba-ibang number.
Sir, we had 37 LGUs with each of them having their own numbers. And we had another 200 numbers for police, for firemen to respond to. So now it's just a unified system.
This will be nationwide in terms
Yes, sir.
of coverage?
We put on phase 1 a month and a half ago. I think we will proceed with Cebu, Ilocos, Barm, Davao, Negros Island region, and the region Pampanga and the region 8. The 911 center, as envisioned, will have a call center which is dialect friendly. So in case of an emergency, if you are in Pampanga, they will answer in Kapampangan. If you are in Iloilo, they will answer in Ilonggo, in Cebu, Bisaya. Same with the Davao region, because we feel that in times of emergency, they can best explain themselves in their thinking voice rather than forcing themselves to speak Tagalog or forcing themselves to speak English. Hence the need for regional centers for the 911.
So, Secretary, right now, 911 is in Metro Manila.
Yes, sir.
That's covering Metro.
Yes.
And how is the performance of the 911? How is the response rate? How many calls are we getting? I read in the news one time that the ALG was getting, or 911 was getting a lot of prank calls.
Yes, sir. As of now, because we're not in full service yet, but we cover the whole country with our response center in Sampaloc. We have 60,000 calls a day. For the first few weeks, for the first few days, out of the 60,000, 1/3 were prank calls. Those prank calls are automatically flagged and put at the bottom. So if they call again for an emergency, they will not be responded to. Eventually, in the next 6 months, it will be in the entire country, and we hope for a better response rate. But the response rate has been very good. Our biggest problem is the lack of ambulances in the local government units, and we have a program for that already with the remaining monies we have left in the department. But we are encouraging the local governments on a one-on-one basis, buy one, take one. If you buy one unit, we will give you one unit. So it will double the capacity of the local governments to respond.
May penalty ba dun sa mga prank calls?
We are working on that. Our problem is that the national SIM card identification is not perfect. As you can see, Senator, in our previous budget hearing, when we talked about the POGOs, you would have one person with 400 SIM cards registered to his name and without a sufficient ID. So the holistic approach would be to have an effective national ID merged with our SIM card registration system. Then we can have a better means to identify who is calling.
I think the intention, Secretary, of the SIM card registration is precisely to curb fraudulent activities, including prank calls.
Yes, sir.
And dati kasi walang registration, ngayon may registration, pero parang nakahanap ng lusot na naman yung
Yes,
mga hindi ano.
The problem, sir, is that our national ID system does not have a biometric feature in it. So you can present any ID you can when you're buying a SIM card. You can present a barangay ID. You can present a driver's license. You can present PhilHealth. You present any ID which seems to have a which seems to have a level of normalcy. But actually, a lot of them are fake. So a lot of people are able to procure SIM cards at on a spurious level. So to make this work, we need to strengthen our national ID system and make it for real this time.
I also can see that if we tighten the SIM card registration, marami tayong crime masosolve at mape-prevent.
I totally agree, sir.
Oh, kasi basic experience natin dun sa Pogo, and even now, no, yung mga, I'm sure our colleagues from the PNP will agree, na maraming mga crimes perpetuated because alam nila hindi sila mahahanap eh.
Yes, sir.
No,
Just to give you an example, there was one casualty during the Mendiola massacre. That was not of the policeman's doing. The pictures that we saw, them holding a gun inside the Sogo Motel, when they raided the Sogo Motel, he was the one who fired. But our national ID system could not determine who he was. But if we had a functioning ID system, then by mere biometrics, you can identify immediately who was the perpetrator of that crime.
If I'm not mistaken, our national ID doesn't have that
Nonsense.
facial recognition. I think,
Sir,
ano lang siya, natandaan ko parang
yes, sir,
thumb lang yun eh. Thumb lang eh.
Tsaka phone registration lang. All you have to do is take a picture with your phone.
Correct.
But it doesn't have any. So to do that, we would have to reformat the system, and we would need it would cost between $60 to $80 million, and it'll take a year to implement and cover the entire country.
I think a immediate solution is tighten the rules on SIM card registration.
It won't work, sir, because they can still give any ID. There's no backup database system for the country in order to determine if this person is real or fake.
I read also in the news that I think it's PNP, tuloy-tuloy yung pag-raid ng maraming nagbebenta ng, they call it pre-registered
That's
SIM
right,
cards.
sir. That's right, sir.
And they sell it in bulk, no?
That's
400 pieces, 500
That's right, sir.
pieces.
Kasi nga kahit anong ID pwede, sir, tinatanggap eh. So it was a flawed system yung to begin with. If you see if we have crimes of kidnapping and if you have crimes of that sort, the online selling, the fake online selling, all of that could have been solved if we had a national ID in order to verify the seller and the buyer.
Yeah. Well, the budget of DICT, Mr. Chairman, will come in next week. So we'll take up the SIM card registration once again with the NTC. I remember one of the committees, I think Public Services yata, nagka-hearing sila. Tapos, kahit na picture mo unggoy,
Pwede.
pwede ka
Pwede,
hindi mo
sir.
kang unggoy
Unggoy mismo.
Unggoy talaga
Yes, sir.
mismo.
Yes, sir.
Makakakuha ka na ng
Yes, sir.
SIM card eh. So, and that's not the intention. The intention is to really sell to legitimate people, legitimate businessmen
Yes, sir.
or
If-
enterprises.
Sir, if I may suggest, if you can, if the good committee can capacitate the DILG to implement the national ID program, we have the sufficient amount of resources, human resources, to implement such a program up to the barangay level. The problem with the current system that we put is that it is the PSA who is limited in its capacity to reach out to the furthest barangays. I've seen programs like the country of Uganda, which is the same population as us, and the Department of Interior carried out the ID program, and within a year they registered 110 million people. So it's nothing impossible that we can't do. So it's something that if you allow us to do it, then we will pursue it with vigor, and so that we can have a safer system for our country.
Well, actually, India, diba, may national ID sila.
Yes, sir.
Sa
That's
pan-
1.5 billion.
Correct. That's
That's
1.5, 1.6 billion of in terms of population, pero lahat may
Lahat
national ID
meron.
sila. So
Yes,
it's not impossible eh.
It's
yeah,
sir.
yeah.
You give us the money, we'll do it in a year.
Yeah. We'll coordinate with PSA, no?
Yes, sir.
And see. But ako nakikita ko yun ng marami tayong masosolve with a very good national ID system and a effective SIM card
Yes, sir.
registration policy.
It has to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
cannot
Even
have
corruption, marami tayong masosolve.
Madami, sir.
Yeah.
Madami, sir.
Thank you, Secretary. I'll jump to another item in the budget which is close to our hearts, no, because we were former local chief executives. Itong local government performance oversight and recognition and incentives program. No? It had a budget of 1 billion in 2025, but I saw a massive cut in 2026 to 20 billion. And I believe this is connected to the seal of good local governance. Mr. Secretary, how come there's a big cut on that program?
Yes, sir. All three of us were local chief executives, and we all participated in the SGLG. But, sir, after a careful study, it takes 6 months for the local government unit to prepare for a bid for the seal of good and good local governments, and it takes another 6 months for the department to examine and to qualify those applicants. Sir, in our study, the 6 months that only for the DILG side, we spent 5.7 million man hours just determining who is qualified or not. It is, to my opinion, sir, and to the direction of the DILG, that it become a term-based award system, so that it will be a totality of work for the 3 years that will be judged rather than a year-on-year basis. It shows it will lead us in the direction of a continuous program for that term, for what they did. It will save us 11 million man hours for the DILG, and it will also show a totality of performance of the concerned local government units.
Hindi na siya every year,
Hindi na, sir.
ang bagong program. It's
Sir,
one term na.
One term na, yes, sir.
Okay,
I
alright.
think it's, to my opinion, and all of us were there.
Baka mo himingi mas malaking premyo yun.
But we will make we will come out with the guidelines, the IRR, but most of it we will separate it for excellence in governance, for excellence in fiscal management, and it'll be a different criterion for that we will announce at the middle of 2026 for them to prepare their bids for 2027.
Opinion, Secretary, does it promote good governance? Because yun ang objective eh. It's not really just the award. But we all know, bragging rights rin yan ng mga LGUs.
Bragging rights yan.
Nilalagay nila sa labas ng
Yes,
municipal. Kami
yes,
nasa
yes.
Valenzuela, nasa labas. Eh.
Oh, sa labas. Kami rin sa Cavite, ganun kami. Yeah, I think it does, but I think we have to hold them to a higher standard. I think we have to, especially with the cynicism of the people in fiscal management of government, I think that has to be strengthened and part of the SGLG, so that even the local governments are accountable for how they manage their finances. Because as of now, as long as you get your COA clearance, you're okay. But it should be held to a higher standard of how they utilized it, what they utilized it for, if they utilized it effectively, if their prices were comparable to the national standards, if they used it judicially, so that we can restore faith with the people on how local governments function.
Secretary, you're reforming the seal of good local governance.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The
Alright.
guidelines will be out June of 2026, sir.
Okay, all right. Mr. Chairman, I'll go to the. I'll allow the chairman to propound these questions. I'll take my second round after you.
Okay, thank you. So just to be clear, yung pong you will be reformatting yung SGLG. Kaya po I would want to ask the question din kasi lumaki there was a decrease of 1.076 billion allocation supposedly for the SGLG. So this is the reason, yung recalibrating
Yes,
and
sir.
formatting.
Yes, sir. And we focus the money more on the response system for the 911.
Okay, so kasi everybody, I agree with the chair of the Committee of Finance. Tama kayo, naging bragging rights yun, pero I think it will have to be improved. We just learned about the man hours that is spent
Yes, sir.
just for the
5.7 million man hours a year. Can you imagine? So I think the department works better now that we have more time to do other things. But even sir, in your when you were mayor, you could see your local government officer how much they have to work in order to qualify these things, because it reaches all the way to the barangays. So you have 40,000 applicants, 4,000 municipalities, 180 cities, and all of them apply, and it takes a lot of time just for it to happen.
Sundan ko lang din po yung yung tungkol sa 911 emergency services. Total allocation for capital outlay of OSEC is 986.4 million, or increase of 583.9 million in 2026. A big chunk of the allocation will fund the procurement of 911 emergency services to the amount of 711.2 million. Said amount will fund the procurement of 300 ambulances, 160 patrol cars, and 300 light motorcycles. So, kompleto pa rin itong 911 emergency service.
1,300, sir. 1,300 motorcycles.
1,300
300
motorcycles.
300 pala. Sorry.
So, aside from, hindi lang ito yung parang magiging call center, yung emergency services, it will also include ambulances,
Yes,
talagang emergency services.
Yes, sir.
Patrol
Our
cars
biggest, we will concentrate a lot on the far-flung under-serviced areas, and also, of course, the urban areas. As of now, it is easier to respond with the motorcycle for a scene of a crime rather than a car, because the average travel time to travel 5 kilometers in the city is something like 45 minutes, where a motorcycle can get faster there.
Regarding doon sa sa COA report, yung 3-story emergency 911 National Office and Command Center building project with a cost of 195 million. Ano na pong status? What's the status now? Can we be updated? Because I think this will house all of this, itong sistema natin na 911.
Sir, that building, we are putting a pause to it because the design was substandard to the new requirements of a full functioning 911 system. And a perfectly designed system, it will take a ceiling height of 12 meters, I think. So it cannot be a regular building. So we have to construct buildings which are appropriate to how a 911 system works.
So it's a new building.
Yes, sir.
Bago na.
We have to create new buildings, sir.
Okay. New project ng OSEC, local roads and bridges inventory program. These are the new things under the menu. It's a new project to be implemented from 2026 to 2028, which will have an allocation of 78.2 million for fiscal year 2026. The program aims to establish a nationwide database for local road and bridge planning, budgeting, and monitoring. What is the purpose of the inventory, and will this be used in crafting a national master plan for local roads and bridges?
Yes, sir. I think Yusek Arigan can better answer.
Yes, Yusek Marlo Irigan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everyone. Yes, sir. Actually, for the roads and bridges inventory system, will be coordinated with the Department of Agriculture to come up with a network, the whole network of the roads and both the national and local roads in the whole country, Mr. Chair. The purpose of this is to collect and update information and improve the system. And train local government functionaries in using the GIS system, Mr. Chair. We are doing this, Mr. Chair, because the PSA has the PSA has adopted, included this as a system of designated statistics in the national government through a PSA board resolution. So we are doing an inventory of all roads and bridges all over the country, Mr. Chair. And later on, this will be connected with what the Department of Agriculture is doing.
Okay, thank you. With siguro tanungin ka na rin to, Mr. Chair, si Chairman ng Committee on Finances here will take advantage. With regards to support for local governance program, flood control issue, kasi nagkaroon tayo where we were both all local government officials doon sa in the hearings, lumabas kasi na nagkaroon ng mga projects na hindi alam ng mga LG officials, no? Yun ang nakakalungkot, parang ito yung tinatawag na sagasa na nilagay ng well, if it's a proponent or DPWH without the approval or knowledge of certain local government officials who were even interviewed na taga sinabi lang wala silang kaalam-alam. So as a secretary, what do you think can we do to improve na talaga maiwasan to? Should we include the kailangan may RDC approval talaga lahat, which is supposed to
Yes, sir.
what's supposed to be how it should be done anyway,
Yes, sir.
or kailangan from the local pa lang, or RDC will be enough, will suffice?
Yes, sir. There are two sides to this equation. Number one, there should be a master plan connecting not only barangays but connecting municipalities and cities, because there are no boundaries in natural disasters. Like the cities of San Juan and Quezon City should be connected, but apparently there is no coordination amongst that. So that's part one. There should be a master plan in place, and the DPWH should be mandated to go with that master plan on merit as needed. Number two, sir, I am wary of having the local government units sign off if it is approved or not for the project to take place. We all know how local governments think, and if you do that without a structural reform, then it will only add to the friction cost of implementing a project. So rather than having the approval of the local governments, there should be a master plan in place, and then before it is implemented, it must be congruent to that master plan.
Sir, just to join in, may pros and cons. Alam naman natin, we're all
We're all
local.
came from there.
Una, pag magkalaban si congressman tsaka si mayor, isang issue yun. Pangalawa, tama si secretary, yung friction cost kasi not all local governments are the same. Some of
That's
them are noble, some of them are medyo questionable. Kaya baka additional layer yun.
That's right, sir.
Ang best case scenario sana, secretary, sa una,
Yes, sir.
diba? In the planning process.
There is a planning process. Just to give an example, sir, Quezon City, I talked to Mayor Joy, of 100% of the national government's flood control programs implemented in Quezon City were not incongruent with the local plans. They were just implemented. And what happened? I grew up in Quezon City studying in Ateneo and UP, and for the first time, there was a flood in Katipunan. There was a flood in Katipunan, which is 200 meters above sea level. And my son lives in Loyola Heights, LGB, and it's beside the Marikina River, and there was no flood in his area. So it only goes to show that the 200-meter drop, that the water did not go down towards the Marikina River. Rather, because there was no congruency in planning of the DPWH and the Quezon City government, there was flooding all over the city, despite its higher elevation.
It also sad, no? Medyo malaki rin yung flood control budget that went to the different districts in Quezon City.
Dami. Oo.
Kumbaga, hindi siya aligned as you mentioned.
That's right,
Talagang kumbaga, yun nakakalungkot, no, Mr. Chair, that sometimes if there's no master plan, para lang masabing may ma-project lang.
Yeah, in the
Parang
case of
ganun na nangyari.
Quezon City, they had the master plan, but it was not put in consideration by the proponents of the project.
Hopefully we can with your support also. I am one of my Mr. Chair, one of the first bills that I filed for this Congress, which will solve a lot of problems, is the master plan for infrastructure and national development.
Yes, sir.
So talagang dapat lahat according to sundin doon, yung hindi yung para lang mag-project na without the knowledge or not in coordination with the local government. So dapat siguro yun.
Well,
So hopefully we can pass this.
Just as a talking off the top of my head and being fellow local government officials, I think that it is to my opinion only, just as my opinion, that the DPWH should be a planning agency rather than an implementing agency. If it were that, then I think the friction cost of implementing projects would be less if the local government units were the ones given the capacity to implement the projects themselves according to a plan created by the national government.
Okay, next, probably we can ask you already, yung sa ibang agencies, no? Mr. Chair, baka meron pa kayong, for OSEC, for Secretary John Wick. Anyway, we'll be staying for a while, no? For PNP, we can ask our Chief PNP. The PNP has proposed new appropriations budget for fiscal year 2020 increased to 209.7 billion, a mere 2% increase lang, no? From last year's level. Kasama na ba rito increase sa inyong subsistence allowance for this year? Kasi hindi nakasama sa ang PNP sa mga nabigyan ng additional subsidy allowance.
Mr. Chairman, the subsistence allowance is not yet included in that increase. For the information of our chairperson, the current subsistence allowance for Philippine National Police personnel is at 150 pesos per month.
150 pesos per month.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, sir.
So if per day, baka per day.
Per day, Mr. Chairperson.
If increase of subsistence allowance not included, pwede baka makikita ng estimate, Chief PMD, General Artates, ng funding requirement para tumaasin yung subsistence allowance kasi 150 parang hindi, it's not anymore updated, no? Talagang kulang na yan for per day.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. With the subsistence allowance among the uniformed personnel, except for armed forces of the members of the armed forces of the Philippines, which is at 350 per day. The rest, like the BJMP and others, for the DILG, it's 150. And we would like
So
to...
lahat po ng BJMP, tsaka
BJMP,
BFP,
BFP.
150 per day.
Yes, sir. To have a standard pay for this subsistence allowance is like in the AFP. Kasi yun naman ang dapat, sir, standard pay and allowance. It should be 350. And we will be needing 16 billion in 1 year, Mr. Chairman.
That's only for PNP, no? Wala pa yung BJMP and BFP.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. For PNP
Siguro-
only.
Siguro yung BFP and BJMP, mga ilan po yung sa inyo
Sir-
para so that we'll take note.
Mr. Chairman, I have the records here. For BGNP, for the subsistence allowance, it will be 3 billion and 64 million. For the PNP, it's 28 billion 195 million. For the BFP, it's 4 billion 711 million.
Just to make it at par, no? With
Yes.
yung sa armed forces, no?
Yes, sir.
From 150 to 350.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, at least our chair of the committee finances here will take note of those, no?
Yes, sir.
Medyo malaki rin pala. Pero, but still, we have to, we just have to be fair. Kailangan talaga